Welcome back to this week's edition of Inimitable Impact Podcast. Today,
In three, two, one, impact.
Completely.
So
Completely.
Trent, you and John have met before. Why don't you guys Trent, you do a little intro here and then John, you can tell us a little more about what you're up to.
well, if you're
Okay.
from Minnesota, you know John Thomas. He's a local kid, played with Roosevelt High School. We got a little beef. Me and him, we go back and forth at Roosevelt. Being at North, so he's a Roosevelt kid. He went South Side Minneapolis kid. Stayed home, went to University of Minnesota, went on to play all over. Great person. Call him a friend. He works with us through AMP and stuff, and great
What's
mentor.
AMP? I know we brought up AMP. Can you say what AMP is just so people?
It's athlete mentor program. It's a through You Want Game and Big Brothers Big Sisters. They hook up athletes to young men, and to mentor those young men, to show them the lifestyle, different scope and different lifestyle. But we're working on that with him, and he's a big part of that. Right now, he's currently with the Timberwolves and doing big things over there with them. So, I'll let him get into his story and tell him what he's doing. But
yeah, tell us a little bit. I know you played overseas too. So I want to know where were you what were you doing out there? What were you doing out there?
Where should I start in my inimitable journey?
Yeah, I know. Tell us a little bit about really, what are you doing right now? I know you're working with the Timberwolves and doing a lot of great stuff there. What's your role there, and what else are you doing?
So my role currently with Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx is Vice President of Basketball Development is the title. The role in and of itself is primarily focused on youth basketball development, which includes everything from on the court products, from camps, clinics, tournaments, to game day experiences. Ultimately connecting the youth of our community to our game. And then I also have recently started an alumni program and have gained some steam, particularly through COVID and virtual, where everyone's sort of been, clamoring for connection. So we've made some positive inroads with getting a lot of our former players or former Timberwolves players reconnected to our organization and really showing them that there's so much more to your life beyond the game and when the proverbial lights go off. So those are my primary responsibilities that I oversee. I've also, I'm sort of a Swiss Army knife inside of the organization. I have lots of different perspective, having grown up in the market, having, have played all the way through let's call it cradle to grave, the life cycle of the athlete. And particularly, as a former Timberwolf, I have a very unique perspective on what our organization, is doing, could be doing, how that relates to players. So as best as I can and where needed, I like to add some fuel to other people's fire. So that's my current role.
I love that. And how big is this for athletes? Because I can just imagine I coach lacrosse, and so lacrosse, yes, we have professional lacrosse, but it's different than when you go into the NBA. It's very short, and you still have to have a full-time job, to pay your bills and all that. But how important is it for these athletes when they leave their sport, where their life has really not been very balanced, right? You've been very focused in one area, and to the point where I think even kids now are not even. They're not even trying other areas anymore because we've gotten way too early with the specialization. You get to this point where your career is done, which could be at any point, right? Whenever your knees decide you're done or whatever it is that's going on. How big is it that they have a resource to go to when they get to that point?
I think it's huge. And at the end of the day, the thing that I've learned through this process is that shelf life is such a short time that I have this saying that for professional athletes, and actually you talked about it and hedged on a little bit earlier too, but even with youth, there's people are going to make money off of you, and you have to ask that. I always say that Apple didn't become Apple by only selling Macs. So what product or service are you selling? And at the end of the day, like you think about, like if I'm a basketball player, my primary service that I'm giving is my skill set. But the expense line against your body is um, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. And when you spend so much of that time within that vertical and you don't create another plan, people say you need to have a plan B. And I said, there's no such thing as a plan B for athletes. I believe there should be two plan A's. And the reason behind it is just the ability to say, well, if I begin to understand how the organization makes money, um, and if it's important for me to transition into a space that once I'm finished playing, either I become an employee or an entrepreneur, what value would I add to that other vertical and what experience do I have within it? And that's the thing that I think it's important for athletes to realize is that particularly at our sport, you're technically per collective bargaining agreement, you're 50-50 equity partner of every dollar that comes in the building. So don't act like a contracted worker, act like a seasoned employee that has a vested interest in a partner that can actually build with the organization, build with the community. And then when your lights go off, you can transition into a new space that because you've put and built relationship equity, now your transition was a lot smoother than mine was.
Yeah, I love that. And, just kind of drawing off that a little bit that I was thinking about when you were talking, we teach that student athlete thing, right? The whole,
Mhm.
you gotta be a great student, as well as a great athlete. And we see a lot of people that focus so much on their athletics and then they don't get the scholarship they thought they were going to get because the grades, they could have gotten a lot more for their grades. And I just went through this. My last kid just graduated high school. So we realized the academic money was a lot higher than the athletic money in a lot of ways. And, but it's almost like that when you get vested in your career is building, you're not a student anymore. Maybe you're done with that, but building your business and where you're going to end up afterwards at the same time as your sport. But I also think that would give you a lot more, just a more well-rounded life, because mentally to get so focused on your sport, it's kind of like, you chase something all day. And then when you catch it, it's like, now what do I do?
Now what?
Like if you've ever
Correct.
seen like your dog go outside and it's running after a rabbit and then it catches it and it looks at you and it's like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, you touched on that. We've been told about this dream and we continue to believe this dream that the money, the fame, the accolades that are received as professional athletes is the be all end all. And once you get there and you have more money than you can shake a stick at, you've never seen the amount of checks come into your bank account like that, where I came from rubbing quarters together on the University of Minnesota campus to my checks are now $33,000 net every 2 weeks, and it's unfathomable. Nobody taught me what to do with it, how to manage it, right? So, and then the other tangible things that potentially come into your hands, right? The ability to purchase a brand new stereo set or a new car. I mean, all these things that are, or what you thought were the luster of that path, you can buy. Yeah. And so when people around you who have words like longevity and legacy, they have that in their mind. As a young man who looks and feels like Adonis, having someone who doesn't even look like you, talk like you, tell you that you're on the wrong path, who are you to tell me? Yeah. Right. And so that's the challenge in a lot of ways, which is, how do you get people at a younger stage to really realize that, this can easily go away and it will go away. But who are you? What do you stand for? What do you value? What is your purpose? Right? Who are you as John Thomas Inc., the CEO? What is your revenue line? What is your expense line? I mean, those are the things that are critical for people to start to understand.
Yeah. And I've talked to some coaches, who were NFL coaches that are retired, and they're like, you know what? I don't want for anything. I don't need money. I now have time. I can spend the time with my family, with my grandkids. I've got all of that, but I am not fulfilled. And I thought that my whole life, I wanted to set myself up to have the money and to have the time to do whatever I wanted. But the bottom line is, if I am not giving back and I am not impacting people, I feel empty on the inside. And it's unbelievable how many people I've talked to who have that same thing. And you'll talk to people who are retired and they're like, I don't miss getting up at 6 a.m. I don't miss sitting on the train. I don't miss, all the stress and all that. But I also get up and I'm like, I guess I'm gonna polish, my whatever today. Like I don't feel fulfilled in that. And I think that is an innate human need to impact other people. And when you can build that alongside of your career, and I think that's a gift that you're given to people, with the work that you're doing is really incredible. And so I guess my question is, what things have really directed you in the direction and the passions that you have right now? Because I know that we all have these moments that kind of, they test us and we get to this fork in the road, and we can either succumb to whatever's pressuring us. And sometimes we do for a little bit, or we go in and out, or we either have a mentor, or we find or build the tools we need, or, whatever it is that help bring us to the success we have, and kind of paired up with that passion to give back. So tell us a little bit about, some of the things that have impacted you.
Probably my biggest impact moment was I call it my transition from my first life to my second life. I believe that athletes die twice because of the identity that's lost from what culturally we've been told and celebrated for, to sort of pick yourself up and realize that you're not a basketball player, you're a human being that happened to play basketball for a short period of time. So it was in the 15-year career, so drafted in the first round, got a chance to shake David Stern's hand, played 5 years in the NBA and then 10 overseas. But that journey, inclusive of the one that I went in playing overseas, led me to a point where the proverbial gladiator who was at the top and the apex predator had to put down his shield, his sword, his boots, and walk into an arena completely naked. No business acumen, not understanding the bottom line of a business, the fact that we're all paid to solve or eliminate problems, thinking that I was worth, at least $100,000 when I moved into my first corporate job at Lifetime. No negotiation skills, no conflict resolution skills other than, okay, you're on the block. All right, now I got to move you. So that moment for me was sitting in a conference room with Brahma Krati, the CEO of Lifetime Fitness, and Alan Alt at the time, who was my boss to be, again, walking into a multi-billion-dollar corporation, not understanding that the lane that I was going into had no revenue. And so, for me, again, thinking like, man, like, I know way more basketball than so many people inside this organization. And, thinking that I deserved $100,000, and walked away from it with a $24,000 a year offer. Yeah. And I went home and I cried. Yeah. It taught me a lot about value. And at the end of the day, our market dictates our value. And so the question for me and looking back was, did I understand the space that I was getting into? Did I have the resume that so many others had built up previously while I was playing basketball? Did I understand the problems that the business was trying to solve? Was I connected to the people? If not for the relationship that I had built with Brahm and the ability for him to take a chance on me, albeit 24,000 is nothing, but his statement was, I want you hungry. And I was like,
literally,
hey, literally,
I want you to be like, I don't have lunch today.
Yeah. But I'm so grateful for at least maybe the insight, which was either he's going to fail or he's going to come crush this. And maybe he saw something in me that, the deer in the headlights that I didn't see in myself, which was, I am hungry. I'm also really scared. Yeah. And then beyond the scare, I didn't know a thing about what many of the people were talking about. So I vividly recall, the question of a contribution margin that I had, and I wrote down, a consummate note taker. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll have that for you tomorrow morning. What is a 100%? I went in the next day. I went in the next day, 4:30 in the morning, because we had badges, right? And I went in. The lights weren't really even on inside of the corporate office. And I'm like, what is contribution margin? I just researched all the way through. till about that 9 a.m. meeting, and I was prepared.
Yeah.
But it just taught me so much. And so through that process, I learned how to do my research. I learned how to.
What if
Go
you had
ahead.
walked in and he'd handed it to you? What if you had walked in and he'd said, I feel a little intimidated by this person who comes in and is, celebrate athlete and he's going to laugh at this offer. And I'd love to have this name in here. I'd like to have this. I'd like to be able to associate this with something. And by the way, I was a personal trainer at Lifetime Fitness. So I worked for Lifetime Fitness too, back in the day. So, what if that had been handed to you? I feel like sometimes also, I feel like it was a test. What if he hadn't tested you? I kind of have a lot of respect for this guy saying, I'm willing to let you walk, even if I see potential in you, because obviously if you made it to this part of your life in sports the way that you did, you have perseverance, you have grit, because you would have gotten there, but you don't have it in this area yet. And I'm willing to bet on you, but here's your test. Are you willing to come in here and realize you are a rookie? And I know that John Gordon's come out and talk to you guys, but John talked about think like a rookie, right? People that you come in and you're always hungry and you're always thinking, this is my first year. What can I learn? It forced you to acknowledge and own the fact that I may be very learned over here, but I am a rookie in this space. Like,
I'm so grateful. And at the time I was angry. And I recall, I think after he gave me the offer and I went back, and like I said, I cried and I stewed on it and I was pissed off, and I just went back and spoke with my family and ultimately ended up calling him again. And I told him, I said, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And that determination, that fire that put me in that space, created this fire in my belly that would set me, forward in my second life. But I have a saying that says, the best captains of the sea didn't become so by navigating through still waters. And, that experience was necessary for me to be hungry, for me to go through those things. And then it sort of put me on this path of looking at, who can I talk to inside of the company? And if I couldn't, who could I talk to outside of the company? And so I didn't even know how to ask for a mentor. So I started with digital mentors. Mm-hmm. Gary Vee was probably my first digital mentor, and someone who I've since connected in person, just and getting to understand who he is and why he did what he did. But him, Simon Sinek, Tony Robbins, so many different people that share the values and the passion that I had. I said, how can I take these and apply them? John Gordon, right? How can I take these lessons and apply them to my life specifically for what I'm trying to solve within my own organization? And then secondly, for my purpose, like, who am I and what do I want to be after sort of letting go and unlearning so much of what I've learned in my first life? So to your question, I couldn't be more grateful for that opportunity. And the more I look back on it, it's like, I want to, just go give him a hug. So Brian McCrowdy, if you're out there, my man, love you. Thank you for the opportunity for me to see what I couldn't.
Yes, I love that. I think, this goes what Trent and Coach McKenzie are doing at Lakeville. I'm still in Lakeville, guys. At Lakeville North, it's in my past, you guys. It's in my past. Okay. When I hear North, that's exactly what I think of. In Minneapolis North, but those kids come in and the first thing that you guys said was, you have to have these grades. It wasn't like, oh, we don't want to lose people, and what if we have a basketball team of 2 people because nobody has the grades. You just said, this is what it is, and you take that risk. So I think that's so important that we do that. Biggest test I ever had was being cut from a team. I played for the best high school in the country, and my freshman year I went in and I got cut, and I didn't know the rules. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I needed to know. And so I spent the entire year working on my skills so that I could come back the next year and make it. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have known the game the way that I know it today. And I just think about, we just talked to Jamie Yukis last night, and she said the same thing. It was the attitude of, oh, really? I'm going to prove you wrong. It wasn't, oh, I'm going to question that maybe what you're saying is valid and I'm not good enough. Not that doesn't happen, but it's that response of, well, maybe it's true, but I'm going to prove everybody. I'm going to show you. And that's how you become successful, is that little bit of a chip on your shoulder, right? And that little bit of a, I may not feel confident here, but I know in the end, that's where I know I'm going to be successful. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but watch me. like failure is not an option. And that's so key.
Why the word inimitable is so important is that every single one of us are, and we're all unique, but we spend so much time trying to be like everyone else. And we have to, that's part of our youth, right? We're trying to figure out and bump our heads against the wall to establish our identity. Like, who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? And most people just get up and just live, right? Instead of truly, taking life by the horns and saying, this is exactly what I want to do. It doesn't mean you're not going to trip and fall to get there, but I try to walk this line of confidence and humility, the confidence to know that there is nobody like me and ever will be like me or have the experiences that I've had, and to walk high with my head held high, and recognizing that you're not me, but at the same time, the humility to understand that there are other people in this world and they have the story, they have their own struggles that they're going with, and that the insignificant moments that we feel of, jumping in a giant ocean or a lake and realizing that in one foul swoop we could be gone at any moment, and who will truly care? So I try to walk that line of confidence and humility all the time.
Yeah, it's so important to understand that you can be confident and you can be unique, and you can know that it's really about value. You can understand the value that you bring without devaluing the people around you. And I think a lot of people haven't grabbed that yet. Like, I can elevate my value and I can appreciate it and I can be confident in that, but I don't have to take from yours in order to feed mine. Like, we can all have an incredible value in the role that we bring. And I mean, tell me what you think about this, because I do feel like we spend way too much time trying to find what we have in common to bring people together. And I think that sounds really good, but I don't think it's right. I really believe that we need to spend more time celebrating and sharing where we're different, because we're brought together by what we have in common, but we add value by what we bring that no one else has. And so if we're constantly trying to hide what we bring that's different in order to celebrate where we're in common, it's like painting everything in your house purple. I mean, it's like,
right.
I love purple, but like the couch is purple, the floor is purple. Like, it doesn't look good, like it looks better when you pair things up, and you want it to match, you want it to all make sense. You're not gonna put a boat in your living room. I don't know, you might, but but you don't want it to be the same color. You want it to look good. That's just my thought on that.
What basketball has allowed me to see, and when you now work for an organization, it comes down to diversity of thought, perspective, and skill set. So in basketball terms, like, if we were all post players that could only score from 5 to 10 feet, we'd be in trouble. If we were all only small point guards that could only shoot from threes, we'd be in trouble. The best teams have an amalgamation and a great mix of skill sets, perspectives, but they're all working cohesively with their arrows pointed in the same direction, which is towards success.
Yeah.
Right. So that for me is how that transferable thought process of, if you throw the ball to me in the post and I get double teamed, I need to be able to kick it out to somebody that has a skill set that I don't, a 3-point shooter that is a dead eye shooter that can knock it down, where we high five, celebrate, go back down the other direction and get a stop on defense.
Yeah. And it's like personality wise too, celebrating the fact that, and finding the right role, I think too, is really important. And if you think of everybody as a puzzle piece, each puzzle piece is uniquely shaped because it has different qualities to it, but you need to fit in the place. You can't put that puzzle piece in a different hole and try to shove it in there. I mean, maybe we do when we were 5, we're like, make it fit, right? And the puzzle doesn't look good when there's a piece missing. Everybody's got to be there, make this complete picture, right? But when you have a really loud personality, you don't want to have 5 really loud leaders on the court at the same time. You don't want to have 5 really quiet, like, just do what I do leaders on the court at the same time either. Like, you've got to have that balance so that it's well-rounded. And the cool thing is, the more diverse your personalities, your skill sets, your heights, your sizes, the more diverse you are, the more impossible it is for another team to match up with you. Because their diverse things that they have, one, they're probably trying to squash them to say, how are we the same, right? So they can't match you, but they're very different. And so by the time they figure out how to match up with all of the different things that you're really using to your advantage, season's over. You're cutting down the net, right? And you're like, hi guys, thanks for trying to figure it out. Maybe next year. So I think that's really big. And how did you take that lesson and use it going forward, from lifetime?
Well, yeah. So I always thought that it was important for me to understand as an organization, like does the organization's mission, vision, values, objectives, strategies, tactics line up with the way in which my skill sets, plug into that puzzle piece. But then from a teammate perspective, if I'm not qualified to do that or don't want to do it or feel like somebody has a different skill set, then who are the people around me that can sort of help to form up our team? So, within the youth space, it's just understanding what are the market conditions and how can we as an organization help to highlight our key points of differentiation to fit to those market conditions to ultimately drive revenue, drive connection to our community for the places that don't have revenue. So there is this macro perspective that I'm seeing from, what needs to happen in this market. And Trent has seen it, through and through when it comes to the challenges within the basketball space. It's taken time to sort of get it right. From an alumni perspective, it comes down to relationships. And I'm a person who lives in duality, right? I think that life is binary. It's either you do, you don't, black or white. You're born, you die, and then we live in gray. But ultimately, we're always creating a decision that moves us to yes or no. Yeah. So, from that form, business, life, it's either transaction or relationship, right? I always use the analogy like, all right, if I'm gonna drop $1 million in your Venmo right now, who are you gonna spend it on? Me or the person that you're closest to? Well, it's the person you're closest to. So when I think about our alumni and over the course of, now 32 seasons, what's been their relationship with the organization, with the community, with the individuals that they've had touch points with, and how can I start to serve as glue where I don't care what happened. It doesn't matter to me. I see something you don't, opportunity. And I don't want to take for granted that the relationship that you had was either positive or negative. It doesn't matter to me. We have 16 Fortune 500 companies in our backyard. Like, we have so many touch points. We are one of 30 NBA teams. We're all connected to some capacity. Use that nostalgia as a backdrop to re-engage, create connection, and build. And so that is how I look through sort of the macro lenses of both of those areas. And then for me personally too, it's what am I doing to continue to invest in myself? If I spend time, I say to my son, like, what you choose to water will grow. Mm-hmm. And so if I spend time watering everyone else's garden, my garden's going to dry up and die.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in that transition from I was that basketball player that didn't spend much time within the sector that I was going to move into, which was business. So how could I propel and move that forward quickly? Mentorship, guidance, books, audio book. I mean, you name it, just a voracious, I'm curious.
Yeah.
So that's how I approached, our business. That's how I continue to approach the business, which is how do I ensure the organization is getting what it needs? So at minimum, I'm meeting expectations, but forget that, I'm trying to exceed expectations. And then, how am I trying to do the same, right? And then balance that between, having a family and wife and 3 kids and friends. I mean, we're all so busy as people. So I'm trying to say no to more things and yes to things that are important, such as the Inimitable podcast.
Yes, I love it. We're super glad you're here. And I remember my dad teaching me. So my dad was a pastor growing up, and so I got lots of really cool lessons, coming from him. And one of the things he taught me was about the difference between urgent and important. And that, things that feel like a fire drill and somebody puts it in front of you and they're like, I need this right now. Or it usually has an emotion tied to it. So maybe it's an argument with somebody, or somebody's put something to test your ego a little bit, or, whatever it is, but it feels urgent. However, if you're intentional when you wake up in the morning and you decide this is what I need to get done today because it's in alignment with my commitments and it's alignment with my vision and my mission and what I'm doing in life, and something urgent comes along that in 2 days or a year, isn't going to matter, but it pulls our attention away from what we're trying to build and what we're trying to grow. And that was so key for me in kind of dialing my energy. And like you said, you know, what you water is going to grow, and what you put your energy and your focus on is where you're going to go. It is the path that you're going to be on, whether you like it or not. You may, I want this is where I'm going. I know what my commitments are, but every single day someone's sending you a bunch of stuff and you're answering emails or you're redirecting. When you look down at where your feet are,
right,
you're not on
gone.
the path that you think you're
Right.
on, right? Right, Trent,
That's
what
right.
you're saying, right? Wherever you go, there you are, right?
Wherever you go, there you are.
That's right. It's the
Wherever you go,
Trentism,
there
right?
you are.
Yeah, wherever you put your energy, that is where you're going, not where you are planning in your little notebook and all that stuff. So I think that's really important. And also I heard you mention you're curious. And man, if I ever had to find something that's in common with people who find success, they are curious. And the people who are struggling with success and questioning, why am I not verified? Why am I not getting these checks that I want to get? Why am I not getting these offers? They have a personality of, look at how much I know. Why aren't people bringing me in? And it's not that people who are successful don't also think, hey, I have a lot of knowledge, but at the same time, their focus is really on, how does that work? Oh, I wonder how I could change that. Like, what else can I learn about that? Yes, I have all this knowledge, but look what I could add to this. And they're just naturally curious people. And so I think for people who are listening, something you could really pull out of this is, you know, if you've gotten to the point where you think, I know a lot about this topic, get some perspective on how small you are, you know, in this world, and realize that, man, there's so much more that we can learn, and just be curious, learn about anything you don't know about, even if it's, you don't see how it's related, because I feel like that stuff comes up.
I got something I'm really curious about across this year.
Yeah, I do too. I have a
I'm
lot
a little
of
curious
questions.
about this.
But the first thing I said when I saw this picture, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, not watching it, this is going to be on the website. Is I said, that looks like one of my really good friends from 7th grade. I was like, wait a minute, Kevin? Is that Kevin? So I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, right. It's like,
How'd you cut it?
I have no idea, but the thing is, like, you look like, what happened in between the box? That's what I want to know. Like, did somebody come in, like, what's going on with the mushroom, the eraser?
I don't.
Kind of little. Yep.
Yeah. Swag is what that swag
Did
is.
you have it in a bun?
Right, a loosely coupled bun. Nah, you know, I've learned to laugh at myself. You know, it's
good.
I think it's really important because you know, particularly when you're in the moment, you just think that's it, right? So, and maybe you just didn't have the skill set to do it, right? But in that moment, I was swagged out, so I'm gonna own it.
That smile,
right?
you are very proud. Now, tell me the truth. Was this a mom cut? Like, where was? Did you pay for this?
I don't recall. That was. That was where my boys around the hood, we were experimenting with clippers, and you know, back in the day where, you know, we put I was putting too black, too strong. They're the public enemy, fight the power movement. I was putting that in the back of people's heads.
I was gonna say, was there a message in the back? Because
you know what? There's other pictures. I found another one where I actually had the blonde dye, like Kwame. I had that kind of a streak in the front of it. And as I got older, it did become a true box. So it was kid and play. By the time I was a senior, for those that, you know me, I had this long Lakers trench coat, and you know, I kind of had this like bop in my step. And people said we'd see you with the box, the Lakers trench coat, and the basketball in your hand everywhere you went, and I was walking around.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, to be fair, one of these times I'll bring up a picture. My mom used to think she was kind of very handy at everything, which is true. She was very handy at many things, but she got into like, I can cut your hair. And so the night before pictures, she gave me like from long hair to like here, and she just went around, you know, and it makes that look so good.
Can't wait to see it. Do share.
I love the quote that JT said. I thought I was doing things too.
I thought I was doing not things. I thought I was doing things. I thought I was doing things.
I wish there was like time period appropriate music playing when you popped that up? Because I feel like it would have been.
What year was it?
What's the
100%.
song? What is the song?
Man,
of
that was
this?
that was probably like 91.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, Public Enemy era, yo.
All
Yeah,
right. Wait, all right.
right.
Wait, what grade
Yep.
is that? What grade is that?
That would have been my sophomore year, 10th
Sophomore
grade.
year. Okay. All right. So we're almost the same age. So I'm
Mhm.
feeling you on that. That's really funny.
Mhm.
Woo. All right. Well, I love this. We've gotten some amazing pictures from our guests that are like, I cannot wait. Every time we pop it up, I'm like, it's awesome. Well, tell me what it is, because only you can share, what you've gone through. I mean, you have dropped so much stuff already, like just amazing things. But tell me, if you had to, choose something you could pass on, something, you're sitting in front of a room with everybody who's listening right now, and they might be kids, might be people in a business setting, they could be athletes, they could not be athletes. What's something that you learned that you just, man, I don't want to take this to the grave with me. I want to give it out. Like, what do you got?
Audit your energy. And by that, I mean, I mentioned earlier that I believe in duality. So life is either matter or energy. And so the relationships that we have with people, certainly the bone, skin, and all that we see, the muscle, that's all matter. But the things that we share transfer each other to energy. So when I say audit your energy, literally take a week and ask yourself in a binary state, yes or no, look through your contact list, look through your email, and ask yourself, do they take energy or do they give energy? And right, because from energy comes the things that we value. And the values are the things that I believe, when we talk about finding our tribe, that's how we form our best relationships, where people share our energy and understand, each other at a completely different clip than those that are just trying to build that transaction. And if you don't, and that energy makes us feel something. So if you feel bad, why do you continue to do it? So that would be my thing, right? Whether it's choosing a job, it's choosing a relationship, it's in doing an activity, that is the way that allows you to sort of formulate, what life should be about, right? Which is happiness. And I've learned that, and then on the other side of it too, is that sometimes when that energy comes in negative, it's going to teach you something, right? That uncomfortable feeling, that big wave that hits you. Constantly try to be optimistic about it and put positive energy into it that will help to guide you through it, because it's never too late until it is. And so at some point, when you die and no one's come back from the grave and it's like, hey, JT, I'm telling you, it was the best experience, or man, don't, hey, bro, look, you do not want to do this. And until somebody comes back and says that, it's not too late. And so that auditing energy, that auditing of the energy was something for me that I take stock in and continue to do, which is I try to just put myself around people that I know through their intentionality that they're ultimately trying to impact this inimitable world.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think if someone's up against a decision, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you tell me what you think, and you have a choice between that energy and the material. So, you're looking at a job, you're looking at an opportunity, like, oh, I can live in this great place. Oh, this is a lot of money or whatever. But the energy, these are not people that are going to make you grow as a person. They might be yes men, right? They might be, or yes women, I guess I have to say, right? They might be, whatever it is. If you're not feeling that energy there, would you say it's safe to say to choose the energy over the matter? What's your stance on that?
In a lot of ways, I mean, we put ourselves, from that standpoint, right? Yes, it is binary, but sometimes it is gray too. But when you make that choice, you're going to learn something from it. And sometimes I have chosen material, right? Because in a country that I've chosen to play in that said, hey, we're going to pay you X dollars, way more than the other country that it was going to. But the thing that always resonated with me was the experience that I had within that country, where I've been in countries that I've made way less, but because of the people and the energy that was given to me, the things that I learned, maybe the stage that I was at in my life, it was so much more fruitful, and it's an everlasting memory. Conversely, on the other side, was also some key learned lessons. So I would say go where your heart is. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm 45 years old and have taken my lumps and have died once in my previous life as a basketball player, and so I'm moving into my second one. Um, you have to go where your heart is, and sometimes it might be that money, but then the question is, how do you change your energy? How do you flip that energy to potentially make it? So I'm always going to lean towards the positive energy, but I'm certainly not qualified to say what someone should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, no, I love that perspective. I mean, Trent, how does that resonate with you?
JT just nailed it on the head. That's the same way I feel. You know, just I choose the energy. I mean, you gotta go with what your heart goes. The energy, the material stuff will come, but the energy is what's I think is what's going to be there the longest. So,
Yep.
I've definitely seen in like a lot of times we choose material things and that guides us, and then we have to try to build the part that's really hard to build. It's like when you try to pick a team and you pick skill over character, and then you can teach skill, but you can't, character, if your character's not there, it's
there's
harder
always character
to develop. Yeah, it's harder to develop. And I think if you chase after the material things, like we were talking about earlier, the dog catches the squirrel, right? You catch it, what do you do with it? Because you haven't built fulfillment on the other end. But if you are focused on fulfillment and giving and serving and developing and becoming, then the other stuff comes, but it comes as almost like a gift on top. It's like that icing, but you have the cake. You're not just standing there with a handful of icing. I'll just do with this. I think that makes such a big difference in choosing what your destination is and what you think you're trying to get. And imagine yourself standing there holding it and not having any of the other things, and realizing, what, this might not be everything I want.
When my feet hit the ground in the morning and I lift them up at night, everything that happens in between there, I want to be around people that share in trying to create value for others through positive energy. And there's not a single dollar. I can always go make more money, but the thing that I can never get back is more time. Yeah. So time for money is never an equal exchange. Yeah. And so for that, time is our most precious commodity. So I want to spend, for the life that I have that I don't know when it will end, I want to spend it with people that have positive energy. Yeah. And doesn't mean that life doesn't give us our lumps. Doesn't mean that we don't even go through stages where sometimes we can be steeped in negative energy. And it's happened to me. Yeah. But the thing that I've learned throughout time is that positive momentum that you can carry ultimately is the flame that is from within that I can then pass on to others.
Yeah. When I had a pulmonary embolism back in 2016, and 1 in 4, that first thing, that symptom that you can get is sudden death. It's a very highly fatal thing that you can get. And one of the things biggest takeaways I got was about time. It's, imagine that you have a bank account, and for teenagers who just got their first bank account, they're like, I can relate to this because I don't write down anything I spend, right? But you don't know what's in your bank account, right? You never know. You can't check it. You don't know what's been invested in that bank account, but you have to spend it every day. And are you going to spend 3 hours or a year of that time in your bank account when you don't know what's in there on something? And what if it was your last dollar? What if you went to the grocery store and you bought some snack that you don't even like because you're just hungry, whatever, and that was your last meal? Same with time. That is, we don't know what's in there, and we're going to spend it. And if you spend it recklessly, that's your choice. You certainly can do that. But then you have to realize that there's going to be a point when that time runs out, and that value has got to be accounted for. And I think if you've had a near-death experience, you get that. And if you haven't, if you can learn that without having to have a near-death experience, you're going to have a richer, better life. I wish I had learned it earlier, because I think I was reckless with time until I realized that it was finite, and that I needed to really choose that value. So last question for you. As a development person with sports, right? We got kids being enrolled in different programs, and obviously not asking you to be like, oh, I like this program, but when parents are choosing, because you're working with athletes at the end of their journey and also at the beginning, but knowing what it looks like at the end, what advice do you have for the new parents signing their kids up for sports and making decisions? I mean, should they be like acting like their kids dating? Like, what are your intentions with my child? I mean, what advice do you have for parents that are starting their kids out in sports?
First, let them be kids. We spend the majority of our life being adults. So let them enjoy being kids. We have taken so much away from them through, uh, the tools that we have now that doesn't allow them to truly just grow up, particularly within youth sports. There's so much pressure on them to perform, to win, to have this outcome that ultimately doesn't matter. Um, I pulled my son out when he was transitioning from in-house basketball to traveling basketball, and I on purpose sat him out for a year. And all of his friends were going and playing traveling basketball. And he's like, "Dad, why are you doing that?" I said, "Because you have to just learn to just be sometimes in this world of noise, and just settle and be you, be a kid, go have fun, man." Like, um, and I think it's reaped dividends because now he's actually hungry to learn about sport. He's hungry to dedicate, and still he's still a kid, right? So I would say, first piece of advice is just let them be a kid. And second, um, coaches should be an extension of your family, and the way in which you have values within your family. How do coaches potentially tie into that? So yeah, what are your intentions with my son? What are your intentions with my daughter? Because I couldn't care less on whether or not they make a single basket. What I want them to be is a productive member of a team. I want them to think about the way in which adversity challenges them in such a way where um, they can use it as a positive catapult and a catalyst to get them to the next stage. We're all going to become employees or entrepreneurs. If you're an employee, why would I hire you if I have one job? If you're an entrepreneur, why would I follow you? So it comes down to the type of energy that we put in. So that value proposition is critical to determining the X's and O's. I couldn't care less. Character, right? Who are you?
Yeah.
How are you going to help establish character? So
What
let
did
me be a
that
kid.
For your son having that year off? Because what I'm seeing now is that kids are they're so over involved in activity that they can no longer play. I mean, this is the first time where we're starting to see kids who cannot play. You put them on a playground and they'll do something for a little bit, but it's like they're so used to things being organized for them that they're like, I'm bored. And then they resort to the video games because that is, again, it's another structured program telling them how to play. And I remember as a kid, my mom being, I'm bored. Well, go. Oh, I'll give you some chores. I mean, you knew better than to tell your parents you're bored. I mean, my mom would hand me a butter knife and be like, go dig the moss out of the bricks in the patio. And that was literally what I never said I was bored again. It was like, go fill his baggie up,
Yeah, I found, I found that it sparked a fire in him, but I couldn't agree with you more in that we are over structuring our kids' lives. I mean, even if you think about the basketball player that starts at youth, by the time they get to the NBA level, they're so used to being told where to be, what time they should be there, like we like what play to run, how to dress, how, like, we're trying to structure everything. So that word play is missing. Then because of the microwave society that we live in, if they don't receive that hit of dopamine or something that makes them feel good, they have so many options now. They're searching. That's the reason why you scroll. Okay, if I don't get this now, right? And then my dad would be like, "Well, Dad, what can you tell me? Like, what's the temperature?" Or simple stuff. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, are you serious right now?" Or are you just sit and watch them to critically solve a problem, and you're just looking. I'm just I'm watching the moments of adversity, and then even the struggle of how that adversity hits them. It's no, I want you to go through this. Your waters are about to become much choppier. I'm like, you're about to be 13 years old. You're 3 years away from driving a car. And the core responsibilities that you need to have are these things. And these are some of the ways in which, as a family, we will operate. So it's guiding that, because there's a message he's receiving from inside the home. Then there's a message he's receiving from outside the home of his friends. And then ultimately the phone that continues to share misinformation at a high clip.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember when my kids left, and none of my kids were going to go off and play professional sports, and they were great athletes, but my daughter's going to go play in college, and it's great. But the thing that I was most concerned about wasn't, did we win state tournaments? Did we, did she have the best coaches, any of that, all the stuff that you worry about, did they win all these games? The first thing I'm worried about is, oh my gosh, she's going off on her own to college without me. Did she learn the lesson she was supposed to learn so that she doesn't screw up something that's going to mess up her life? And all, it's this instant shift of what is important and what matters. And you know what? It's too late to figure that out when they're walking, down in senior night to meet you and you hand them the rose. It's too late to go, oh, I didn't teach you anything. Your coaches actually, taught you how to win, but you didn't learn how to overcome adversity. You didn't know how to learn how to work with the difficult teammates on your team. And you didn't figure out how to hold people accountable while also valuing them and all these things. And can we go back and do it again? Because now I get it. So that's that impact, that we got to leave. And I've got, my kids are graduating. Trent's kids are just getting ramped up. And so,
I'm over here taking notes about fatherhood.
He doesn't listen to me.
Kids, everything. I mean, like JT said, though, I'm learning to let him just, my kids just have fun, go out there, be a good teammate, have fun. That's all it's about. Just, we're not about wins and losses, how many buckets you get or whatever, how many goals you score. Just have fun, be a kid. He likes, my son especially likes the social aspect of all the sports he's in and stuff. He just likes to go out there with his friends and play. Because like you said, we're living in a society where you can play video games with kids all over the world. Back in the day, you had to come to one house and socialize and play. Now it's like you can hop on there, put on a headset and play. But now it's just different. But the socialization is a big part of my son playing sports. Like that's what he loves, being around other kids.
It's interesting. At the end of the day, life is our best teacher. And despite all the things that we think we have plans for, and kids think they have plans for, life will take care of it all.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. This was awesome. We got so much, like the tidbits are going to be just like boop, 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 all over the place. We just appreciate you so much for bringing this in. I think you're doing incredible things for so many different people in the role that you're in. And I know you're reaching out to the community and all of that. Is there anything, that any message you want to get out for programs, to let people know that you're working on or anything like that? Or you just kind of.
Yeah, no, I think programmatically, I mean, obviously we continue to, and Trent's been particularly, connected with Coach McKenzie. We're really trying to move the needle and change the landscape of youth basketball as a whole, certainly from a programming perspective, but more importantly for when we think about how we're developing people in a way that makes them, connected to our organization, to our community and the like. So, and we're seeing, across all walks of socioeconomic status, and I think it's critical that we continue to do that work. But yeah, no, huge fan of the two of you. Obviously, getting a chance to meet you, Kate. Again, honored to be a part of the podcast. And Trent, you know where it's at, my man. Continue
for sure. That's okay, man. You're one of the first people we want to get on here, man. I respect you so much.
I love that the Timberwolves in general are committed to this community aspect too, and to have you as a part of that, I think is so pivotal. And you're definitely making an inimitable impact over there in Minneapolis. I know I'll be up there soon, so hopefully I get a chance to meet you in person. And thanks for jumping on with us today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Best of luck with the podcast in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Right.
2, 1. Impact.